Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another show of Indo-American Passage, visas, green cards, and how to get them. I'm your immigration attorney, Dave Banad Vishwanath with the Banad Law Offices. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is every Saturday at 10 a.m. on ITV all across the United States and at 8:30 p.m. on Saturdays on HW News Network in India, the digital news channel based out of Mumbai. So on ITV on Saturdays at 10 a.m. and in HW News Network on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. every Saturday. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is all about U.S. immigration as well as the intersection of immigration and politics. It's an important area, and it's an area that is a very big, hot topic right now in the United States with this current administration. We're seeing a very polarized America for various reasons. You've got people that are for immigration, you have people against immigration, you have people for enforcement of immigration. And surprisingly, we have a lot of Desi Americans, a lot of green card holders, a lot of citizens who are very much in favor of a much stricter immigration system. In fact, I've talked to many people who say that they believe that they went through the system the right way, and therefore everybody should. And why should anybody get a pass? Then there's the people from the other side of the line, and they say, you know what, we came to this country just like everybody else, and because of the benefits that other countries get, they're able to come here more easily. And because we're from a particular country, it's not as easy to come to America, and we had to do what we had to do to get here. There's really two sides to every coin, and in the immigration debate, there's definitely that too. Ladies and gentlemen, anytime you have any questions, by all means, you can email me. It's dev@banadlaw.com, dave@banadlaw.com. You can always reach us at our offices. I've got offices in Queens, in Manhattan, in Bangalore, India, as well as Mumbai, India. And we represent people in the gambit of immigration issues, including problems at consulates, and we assist U.S. citizens when they are abroad. So if you know somebody or you're a U.S. citizen that's abroad and having problems in a foreign country, we do assist people with dealing with the U.S. Embassy or consulates in those countries. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in immigration today and some of the announcements that's been coming up from the administration and from Department of Homeland Security. One of the big topics is the imminent discussion of H-4 visas when you're a spouse of an H-1B, and that H-1B spouse has already gotten an immigrant application filed and approved, okay? So if I'm on H-1B, but my employer also filed an employment-based petition for me, which is called an I-140, and that I-140 has been approved, then for the last few years, H-4 derivative spouses have been able to apply for work authorization. And that was created under the Obama administration, and it was really to address a bigger problem, which was there are lots of H-1B holders, more than 40% of whom are Indian nationals. By far, Indians are disproportionately affected by the H-1B system, whether for good or for worse. And because of the numbers of Indians that are becoming permanent residents, and because of the United States cap on per country numbers that can come into the U.S., in any visa category, what we're seeing is a huge backlog for Indians who are Indian nationals, I should say, who are coming to the United States, whether it be family-based immigration or if it's employment-based immigration. So now, if you're an H-1B holder and you've filed for permanent residence, you may be waiting in quite possibly a decade, before your green card numbers become current. I just had a talk with one of my employer clients, and they're one of my great clients, and they've had their employees on H-1 since 2007, October. And we're still renewing their H-1Bs because their visa numbers are just not current. So we have their visa numbers, I think, around 2014 or so, 2015. So the employees at this point have a long way to go. So in that stage, and because these people are waiting around for so long, President Obama decided, and with the advice of his representatives and people in his cabinet, to offer H-4 dependent spouses the ability to work if their H-1B spouses did have a permanent resident application pending and was just but for visa numbers becoming available, then the H-4 spouse could apply for work authorization and then begin working, because obviously it's not easy to survive, especially with a certain type of lifestyle in the United States on one income. People do it all the time. Millions of people do it. But this was to give families an opportunity to continue to grow, because through no fault of their own, they're already sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Now, the administration and through policy memorandum and news press releases by USCIS, they have discussed the issue of canceling that work authorization for H-4 spouses. In fact, the word is right now that in the next few weeks, by the end of this year, meaning 2018, we may actually see the proposal to end H-4 spouse employment-based authorization. Okay, so I want to tell all of you at home, being that you're going to watch this show this Saturday, which is December 1st, sometime in the month of December, there's a good chance that we're all going to see that in the news, that immigration has now decided to cancel the employment authorization for H-4 dependent spouses. So if you have people at home, or if you're someone affected by this, by all means, you need to start, contacting an immigration attorney or somebody who's well versed in immigration law and find out what your options are. And I know for some people that means that they may even have to, pick up and leave, because they just cannot afford, or one of the spouses is going to have to leave because they cannot afford to maintain their lives here. Now, there have been some proposals by people in the House at the moment. There's one proposal that's been made in the House that essentially is to usurp the administration in some ways and create a bill which would protect H-4 spouses. So the reason why I'm saying this is because President Obama created this as a carve-out. So it was not exactly legislation. It was an executive order that allowed for H-4 spouses to work. There was nothing in the statutes or nothing issued by Congress to prohibit that. So now that the administration is looking to cut this, some members of Congress are looking to sort of stop them from cutting it by making it a law. Okay, so if Congress can propose this bill, if it gets past the floor and then is approved by the Senate, then it'll come before President Trump and hopefully he would sign it. If he doesn't sign it, then we need 2/3 of Congress to override the president's veto power. Now, there's one other area of immigration that we've heard about this ancillary, and that's with respect to students and DACA. Okay, for many of you who've heard of the Deferred Action for Early Childhood Arrivals, otherwise known as DACA, this was sort of again, because Congress wasn't acting on what was called the DREAM Act, President Obama implemented DACA as a way for people who were brought here as young children under the age of 15, if they were in the United States and brought here by no volition of their own, really, and they maintained here and they went to school and got their GED here, or they went into the military, then the United States government, through Department of Homeland Security, would create an opportunity for them to get what's called deferred action. Okay, that would allow these individuals to be in a period of authorized stay in the United States. It would allow them to work, get bank accounts, social security cards, driver's licenses. It really allowed them to do a lot. In fact, there were people that were able to apply for what's called advanced parole. So they would travel outside the country and then re-enter the country. Now they've been admitted. Some of those people who came without inspection were admitted into the United States and then married the love of their life and became permanent residents that way. There are other DACA applicants that have just continued to renew their DACA applications. And President Obama did this as a patch, hoping that at some point Congress would get on board and create the DREAM Act, which he had said over and over again he would sign. So President Trump is taking a different approach to this, and he's said already that if Congress acts, he would sign it. Okay, so there's been a lot of attention around President Trump just being totally anti-immigrant, and I'm not discussing my opinion on this subject, but I will say that there are times when he has shown at least a deference or support to the subject. And he's sort of gone back and forth on this issue of students and DACA and deferred action. At first he said no, then he said maybe, then he said no, then he said, you know what, I would sign it. He got a lot of pressure. There was a lot of people protesting. He got a lot of pressure from people that he supports, that support him. And he made the decision that, look, it's Congress's responsibility. They're messing this up. I'm going to take DACA away. If Congress wants this to happen, they will act. They will drop the DREAM Act. They will create the DREAM Act, put it into place, and I'll sign it. And then these people have nothing to worry about. But he didn't believe, and he has said over and over again, I don't think it's right to have this sort of legislation from the executive office on something as serious as DACA. Now, that's another area that's very interesting, right? He's utilizing his executive power in a way by taking away something that was created in order to encourage Congress to act. Now, with respect to the House being, won by the Democrats, I think the last tally said that Democrats now had a 39 member gain, in the House. So that's pretty significant. Democrats have pretty solid control of the House. We'll see how that plays out in 2019. Most of those newcomers are taking office in 2019, January. And because of that, we'll start to see, there's talks now, there's negotiations going on, but they're not officially in office. So once January rolls around, we'll see these new people come into office, and we'll see what kind of negotiation powers they have. Obviously, the Senate is still controlled by the Republicans. But I will say, ladies and gentlemen, whenever comprehensive immigration reform was created, whenever it has happened, it has been the House that destroyed the bill in the last, 10 years, 15 years. President Bush was in support of comprehensive immigration reform. President Obama has been in support of comprehensive immigration reform. President Clinton was in support of comprehensive immigration reform, although it was under President Clinton that IRA was created, and that created a lot of issues for immigrants and people without status. And then obviously now we have President Trump. Now the question is, will President Trump be in support of comprehensive immigration reform? We all hope so. At least I certainly do. But the way this would work is, what would happen historically is that Congress would get together, House would create a bill, Senate would create a bill. They would try to merge the bills. Once that was created and there was one final bill, they voted on it. The Senate, for multiple years, Senate would approve the bill, and the bill would fail in the House. So now, with such a large number of Democrats in the House, and because the Democratic platform as a general proposition is in favor of comprehensive immigration reform, it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2019. If the Democrats come forward with a strong bill that even some Republicans can support, and that most Democrats in the House support, and the senators don't stick their feet into the ground and say, I'm not doing anything, then we might actually see some major movement in 2019. And then obviously the wild card would be President Trump. And we all hope that he comes on board with whatever Congress creates. But there's a big interplay here, ladies and gentlemen, with this. Now, this past week, President Trump has also discussed the fact that he's taking a bunch of losses and a bunch of hits in the immigration sector. Recently another federal court decided that President Trump's ban on asylum cases, saying that at the moment the United States would not take on new asylum cases, was unconstitutional. They said that the president does not have the authority or the power to ban people from applying for asylum. So that was a big hit for the president. And while that was a circuit court, and obviously other jurisdictions don't necessarily have to follow it, there are definitely people that do have to follow it, and the circuit court creates an issue of all the jurisdictions that's under that circuit court have to follow the rules of that circuit court. And President Trump has unfortunately gotten into a little bit of a I don't want to say fist fight, but an argument and deplorable, decreeing that the judges involved with these decisions are actually either Obama appointees, or they're not really judges and they're fake judges, or they're, just taking losses in the Ninth Circuit is no good. That's what he keeps on saying. Now, let's just be very fair about this, ladies and gentlemen. It is true that cases do get broken up. There are cases, and definitely under President Obama's time, there were lots of cases that were brought up in the Texas area, because many times the court decisions in Texas were perceived to be more conservative. And under President Trump, there may be a lot of cases that are being brought before the Ninth Circuit because the Ninth Circuit may have a perception of having cases or decisions that tend to be more left-leaning. But because of President Trump's discussion on this subject, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John G. Roberts, actually had words with President Trump and actually said publicly that there are no Obama judges, there are no Trump judges, and being independent is part of the core of what it is to be a federal constitutional Article III judge. Powerful words by Chief Justice Roberts, and we'd like to hope that most judges have that feeling as well. So President Trump is all over immigration, ladies and gentlemen. Now, obviously, because the elections are over, President Trump has had more time to sort of take a step back and not, beef up the arguments on immigration. But every time something happens in the courts, he's obviously getting upset about it. We've got a lot going on. So one of the things that I want to talk to you all about is, with all of these things happening, the finding that the asylum ban was unconstitutional, the issues with H-1B, the questions about how the Department of State are handling applications that are being filed for employment-based cases at consulates. What I want to sort of put upon all of you is that over the next 6 to 8 months, we are going to see a lot more changes, I think, and we're going to see a lot more court cases. So you really need to stay tuned to seeing what's going on in the news. You need to stay locked into this program. You need to find out what's going on because we're going to see those changes. And if you're in another country and you're looking to get a visa to come to the United States, really find out what the policies are, okay? There's a lot of information out there on what the law is. In fact, there are, almost too many blogs and too many websites and too many lawyers with information on their websites for you to take it all in. But one of the interesting areas I think that's worthwhile in recognizing is how the law goes one way, but policy matters, policy decisions will create the way the law is effectuated. Okay, so in the next few months, it's important for you all to check that out. Getting into the holiday spirit right now, we've got Hanukkah coming up, we'll have Kwanzaa, we have Christmas, and then we have the New Year. There probably will be a little bit of a die down in some areas related to immigration. That's my guess. I can't say for sure, but that's what my gut tells me. We did have some news that there was a lawsuit against ICE and a correctional facility and Customs and Border Patrol and the Department of Homeland Security. And it was brought on behalf of a mother who was an undocumented immigrant, and she was with her toddler in Texas. They were brought to a Texas detention facility. While in the facility, within about 6 days of being brought to the facility, the toddler got some upper respiratory infection. They did give her medications. They asked for help all the time. There was nurses and there was at least one doctor. I think there was only one doctor in that whole facility for the thousands of people that are there. But essentially the way it worked out was that this toddler never really got better. After 3 weeks of being at this detention facility with their mother, they were released. And they came immediately to New Jersey, where then the mother brought the daughter to a hospital. The daughter spent several days in that hospital and unfortunately succumbed to the illness. She was only 2 or 3 years old. Very sad case. And now the mother has brought a $60 million lawsuit naming all of those people, naming actually an agency within the state as well, basically saying that it was neglectful and they didn't give them the standard of care that should have been required for people when they're in detention. Very sad case, but these are the things that are happening right now. I see that as being information that we might see over the next few weeks and months. But coming into January, coming into inauguration of the House, I think we'll start to see a lot more ramped up information. A lot of the people in the House right now who are legislators are not looking to stir the waters. They talk about what's called a lame duck session. With all of the holidays coming up, a lot of legislators are just not going to be doing much work. They may be doing some work, they may be seeing constituents, they may be catching up on work, but nobody this close to the end is going to be doing that much if they're leaving office. Now, for those who are in office and continue to remain in office and who will be here next year It's not an issue at all. For those people, it's sort of business as usual. But again, it's the holiday season, and because of that, you will start to see a little bit of a less active Senate as well. And President Trump, I mean, he's left up to for you and I to decide or to guess on what he'll be doing. But one of the things that I also want to point out here, ladies and gentlemen, is that whenever you have an issue that you think is clear, it's important to go to somebody who understands what the law is and what the state of process is today. Okay, for all of our clients that are outside, or all our viewers that are in another country, whether it be India or Guyana, Pakistan, Trinidad, or Canada, one of the things that you have to understand is that many times what's in the law and what's in these websites and blogs only tell half the story. There's more going on than just that. And one of the things that I want to also stress upon all of you is don't get caught up in nonsense. Okay, don't get caught up in fake applications. Don't get caught up in lying to federal authorities, especially if you didn't think it was bad before. In this day and age, it won't get you anywhere. You're going to hear stories about, oh, just tell them this. You're going to hear stories about, oh, you can just get married and you'll become a permanent resident. Not true. There may be cases where that happens, but what I'm saying to you is the laws are changing. The administration and the tolerance for what some people might consider white lies is going out the window. And all of you need to be prepared and think long and hard before you jump and take the leap to creating things out of nothing. Another area, very, very important, asylum cases. Ladies and gentlemen, I've told people this over and over again. Asylum is meant to protect the weakest. It's meant to protect those who can't protect themselves and those who are being targeted for something that they are. And I just want to stress to people out there, don't mull the system. Don't destroy what asylum is supposed to be because you want to try to get to the United States and get a work permit. It really does sully the opportunity for good, real cases to get through. I've had people say, oh, well, all asylum cases from India are bogus, or all asylum cases from this place are totally untrue because it's such a good democracy and because there's so many, they believe in the rule of law. And I'm here to say that that's not true. There are loads of cases in India and other places where asylum and seeking asylum from the demographics of India is very real. And unfortunately, there are so many clients that have come up with these, I'll just say it point blanks, these sort of fake created cases that it has marred the perception, not only public perception, but also the perception amongst immigration judges and also the perception amongst government attorneys, that there are all these cases that are coming up and from particular countries. And they're just not true. I've had discussions with Indian consular officials where off the record they have said point blank, all these asylum cases are bogus. And I've had immigration attorneys say, yeah, you're right, they're all bogus. And I don't believe that. I think that there are a lot of cases out there that are very, very true and earnest, and people are looking for protection. And it's true, the United States offers a lot. It offers people in many ways a better life, a better economic opportunity, a better standard of living. But that doesn't mean that it takes away from the hardship that people have gone through. And many people look at the United States as a bastion of freedom. With all the problems that we have today and all the disgust and all the polarization of different people, there's still really an element of freedom that's here, and there's an element that people have a voice here. And people that are running away from persecution look to the United States, look for that freedom, and come here to not only protect themselves and give their children a better life, but also protect themselves and their children from the travesty of the place they came from. So I do encourage all of you, stay truthful and make sure that when you apply to things, think twice before you run into, making up things. Ladies and gentlemen, we've really come to the end of our show, and I want to just tell you all a very important note. We just had Thanksgiving, and I hope all of you had a wonderful and thankful weekend and Thanksgiving holiday. For all you folks that are abroad, for all you folks in the United States, I want to wish you all a happy holidays. For any of our potential Jewish viewers, happy Hanukkah, and get that shopping done. Enjoy yourselves. If you have any questions, please do email me or give us a call at the offices. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Indo-American Passage. I am your immigration attorney, Dave Banad Vishwanath with the Banad Law Offices, and we'll see you next time.